How many rooms have you walked into only to shrink? You smile, you nod, you play along. But inside, you're tired. Tired of pretending. Tired of being invisible. Tired of carrying the weight of ADHD, depression, or addiction like it's a secret no one can know. What if you didn't have to fake it anymore? What if confidence wasn't an act, but who you are? The Pro Social Blueprint is a private, 6 session, hands on coaching experience designed for men 40 and over who are ready to stop masking, stop shrinking, and finally learn how to connect with presence, clarity, and fierce kindness. This isn't for everyone, and it's not meant to be. But if you're ready for a turning point, you'll know. And when you're ready, take the free pro social assessment today at youradhdguy.com. Find out if you're the right fit. Your next chapter starts here. Don't mind me. I just have ADHD. But let's be real. ADHD doesn't just mean forgetfulness or fidgeting. It's meant being labeled, masking, performing just to survive in a system that wasn't designed with us in mind. The podcast isn't about fixing you. It's about unlearning the shame you were handed down. Here we talk about ADHD, trauma, addiction, depression, healing, identity. All the messy things that make us human in our life and work. And we do it with fierce kindness. I'm Ron Souers, your ADHD guy. And if you've ever felt like you had to earn your worth, if you ever struggled to slow down, speak up, or show up without a mask, welcome. You're not too much. You were never broken. And now you're waking up. Let's remember who we are together. I want to help you see what you were always meant to be. Hey, friends. Ron here, and welcome back to Don't Mind Me. I just have ADHD, and this episode just might be the most important one you've heard yet and that I've done. I'm excited about it. If you've been following along our ADHD and trauma series, this is part 7. I'm going to be real with you. If you skip anything, don't let it be this one. Because today we're talking about addiction, but not just addiction to substances, addiction to validation, to busyness, to shopping, to masking, to escaping. This episode isn't just about drugs. It's about what we reach for when we don't feel like we're enough. First thing first. If you haven't heard part 6, the world is gaslighting you. Pause here and please go back and listen. Heck, go back to the beginning of the series. I'll wait. It contains a lot of context for what we're about to unpack. How culture and capitalism prey on the pain of the disconnected, especially those of us with ADHD brains that crave meaning, stimulation, and safety. We broke down how the system is designed for us to hustle, perform, and constantly feel like we have to prove ourselves just to feel worthy. So now the question is, what happens when we just can't anymore? Now let's talk about addiction, not as a moral failure, but as a nervous system response. Hungry Ghost. Dr. Gabor Maté wrote something I'll never forget. Addiction is not a choice, it's a response to pain. Being an addict, this really struck a chord with me. And through his influential book, In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts, he describes addiction as the pursuit of relief from deep inner emptiness. This hole that we keep trying to fill with stuff. Think about that. Addiction is only a response to disconnection, not just from others, but from ourselves. In Vancouver's downtown east side, Dr. Maté treated hundreds of patients who were using heroin, meth, and crack cocaine, many of whom had survived either extreme neglect, hardcore physical, or sexual abuse in their childhoods. In Hungry Ghost, Maté talks about Serena, a patient at the nonprofit Portland Hotel of East Hastings, one of the many faces of addiction on the downtown east side. She was a young woman ravaged by severe sexual abuse, neglect, and dysfunction, and her death, in his words, is indicative, is indicative of a massive failure of society, science, and compassion. He said every single one of them had a story of trauma, every single one. That's a startling connection. And yet, we punish and judge the addict instead of asking, why the pain? As Maté says, this isn't a war on drugs, it's a war on drug addicts. Addiction isn't just about substances. Let's widen the lens just a bit. Addiction isn't just about heroin or cocaine. It's about compulsively using anything, substances, people, achievements, power to fill a void. That hit of dopamine when your TikTok goes viral, that thrill of retail therapy, the loop of chasing someone's approval. These are survival strategies from our nervous system begging for relief. Dr. Maté explains it beautifully. His central thesis is that addiction is occurring on a massive scale in Western society because so many people have an inner emptiness caused by social dislocation, including the destruction of traditional relationships within families and communities and a lack of proper attunement in infancy. By attunement, he means a parent literally being in tune with the child's emotional states and being present in a way that ensures the infant feels understood, accepted, and mirrored. He writes in his book, attunement is the real language of love, the conduit by which the pre-verbal child can realize that she is loved. He points out that parents who deeply love their child might still fail to provide proper attunement. This can occur because the parents are depressed, overworked, stressed, or dealing with crises that take them away from the child. And that's when things can literally go a bit haywire in the infant's brain, contributing to addiction later in life. Maté cites child psychiatrist Daniel Siegel. Maté cites child psychiatrist Daniel Siegel to suggest that poor attunement can interfere with the development of brain circuitry. This can lead to distorted levels of the brain's endorphins, which soothe physical and emotional pain. Poor attunement can also result in fewer brain receptors of dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter that sends messages of incentives and rewards. And so years later, we are still mindlessly chasing the missing chemicals with caffeine, Adderall, alcohol, weed, porn, sugar, Netflix, work, likes, you name it, whatever we can to distract from that feeling. Not because we're weak, but because we're wired for connection and we didn't get enough of it when we needed it most. So now we numb. The mask and the mirror. Addiction and masking are siblings. We mask who we are so we can belong. We perform, we overachieve, we people please. And every time we're praised for the mask, we leave we lose touch with the us underneath. We start to think maybe I'm only lovable when I'm useful or productive or calm. That's identity trauma. And when the mask becomes too heavy, when we break under the pressure, we reach for something to help us disappear. That's what addiction is. It's not a pursuit of pleasure, it's a pursuit of relief from shame, from grief, from feeling like a burden. If the parents are not there in an attuned, non stressed way to regulate them, self regulation never develops, Maté suggests. Then there is no impulse control. If they're stressed to begin with, then they are going to go for anything to reduce the stress. One thing that one thing that addictions all do is they reduce stress momentarily. And here's the scariest part. The world profits from your pain. The system that isolates us is the same system that's selling us the cure. The real cost of addiction. In an interview with the Georgia Strait, Dr. Maté told a haunting story. A person addicted to cocaine needs about $100 a day to sustain the habit. They often steal goods and resell them at a fraction of the value, meaning they need to shoplift $30,000 a month to fund the addiction. That's the cost of criminalizing pain. It's not just about jail cells or stolen goods. It's about lost lives, disconnected families, generations of shame, and a healthcare system that won't look past systems. And a healthcare system that won't look past symptoms. The problem isn't just the drugs. The problem is that we're treating emotional wounds with punishment. At the political level, it controls the population of most down. At the political level, it controls the population of our most downtrodden. Emotionally, we are all addicted to negative behavior for our short term gain. And spiritually, we marginalize the addict because we do not want to look at the mirror they are holding up to us. We fear the parts in ourselves we don't want to see. And Maté continues, you cannot punish the pain out of someone. This really hits hard for me because, I don't talk about it a lot and I really don't talk about it enough. because it comes from that place of shame. It comes from that place of like, are they going to see me as somebody they can look up to and listen, or are they going to, think that, oh, he's just an addict. I can't listen to him, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and be vulnerable. I suffer from addiction. I didn't know it for most of my life, and there are so many times where I went out just seeking that that pleasure, seeking that, and it was never enough. I didn't want to feel anything. I, I can remember there was days where I stayed up. I couldn't sleep, chasing that addiction, chasing those drugs, trying to not feel the the constant disappointment from not being good enough for my father. I've spent so much of my life trying to please him and be good enough. And it just never seemed like it was good enough. And I remember we one time had this argument, and I don't know if I was high. I probably was, but you know, I called him out on it. I said, like, if you just, it was something about like, you just don't care, do you? You don't love me, and I don't, he didn't answer. And I don't know if I know that he does, like, and through work and, examples, and he's always been there for me. But like that moment stood out, um, because I just don't think that he knew how to answer that. It was like a moment of honesty, but from a negative perspective. And, looking back, doing all this self-help and, recovery and healing, like it has really opened up my eyes, especially through this this research that I've been doing with Dr. Gabor Maté. And, it makes so much sense that there's not something that's wrong with me. It's just the system, like how I grew up has really just like I needed that. It was always something that I needed, that it was never enough, that I thought that things could make me better. And I see it in so many other people. That's why this episode is so powerful for me. And I hope that it connects to all those that are, wondering what's wrong with them, or curious if they need help. And if you're an addict, it's not your fault. And there's help. Trust me, I am living proof of that help. Mattei is a man of science who has in the past made the scientific community uncomfortable. He continues to do so. His insistence on combining research of biochemistry with matters of spirit His insistence on combining research on brain biochemistry with matters of spirit, emotional pain, and environmental nurturing has received criticism despite the mind, body, and spirit health movement that has infiltrated mainstream sensibilities. And this is the and this next part is probably going to be a tough pill to swallow. but realize that I say this out of love and from personal experience. Maté offered a surprising response when asked how parents should deal with a drug-addicted daughter. The first step is going to have to be perfect. The first step is they're going to have to be perfectly okay with their daughter using. They have to be perfectly okay with this. Say, this is what's happening, not resist or resent it, not wish her to be different, not work to make her different than the way that she is. Because what this girl did not get in the first place was unconditional loving acceptance. Not because they didn't intend it, but because they couldn't deliver it because their own stuff. He added that if parents understood how deeply an addiction is ingrained in the brain, they would accept their child's condition more easily. The only thing they can do is create an atmosphere in which she would be encouraged to become more self-reflective, Maté said. And that can only happen when there is no judgment there and there is no push to change. And I know that can be the hardest thing for a parent to do. He said that if policymakers properly applied what has already been learned about brain biochemistry, including teaching parents the importance of attunement, 80 to 90% of the addictive behavior could be eliminated in Canada within 2 generations. And that would save a lot more money and create far greater peace of mind over the long term than continuing the war on drugs. Maté continues, they are simply not reading the research. While the institutes scramble around for band-aids to soothe the ever-increasing fallout of addiction, increasing numbers of people are willing to look at holistic common sense. Only in the presence of compassion, Gabor Maté insisted, will people see the truth. We are only fixing the symptoms, not looking at the root cause of the real problem. And seeing these addicts as somebody lost traumatized child caught in the grips of system, and seeing these addicts as somebody's lost traumatized child just caught in the grips of a system that has failed them on every level. My hope is that we never lose sight of that. So what do we do with this? Here's the truth. We don't have to hit rock bottom to wake up. You can interrupt the pattern before it becomes your identity. You don't heal through shame. You heal through understanding. You don't need to fix yourself. You merely need to meet yourself with compassion. So let's take this home. Try these 3 tiny interruptions. Craving check-in. When you feel the urge to reach for something, pause. Ask, what pain is this soothing right now? Really take a moment to explore that. Next, radical rest moment. Do something unproductive that feels good. Music, nature, dancing, or just lying on the floor. Lying there for 2 minutes can really help interrupt the cravings. Let your nervous system know it's safe to be there. And the last one is to text the truth. Sending a message to someone safe. I'm trying to be more real with myself. This is hard, but I'm showing up. Or I need help. And if you can't do this on your own, make it to a meeting. Either AA or NA or any 12-step program. It helped me and continues to do so, and others I know. It can help you too. When you are ready to come home. And if this work resonates, don't do it alone. Download my free self-discovery e-journal. The link is in the show notes, or you can go to youradhdguy.com. Seriously, I don't even know why I'm giving this away for free. It's that good. Apply for my pro-social assessment. It's a high-touch, 6-week, fully immersive, hands-on, private coaching where we go deep into breaking shame cycles, building self-trust, and healing through real connection. And bonus, get exclusive early access to every episode before it drops anywhere else on my website, youradhdguy.com. You can find both of those there. Follow me, because the opposite of addiction isn't sobriety, it's connection. So here's the big question. If addiction is a response to pain, how do we actually start healing? Not just coping, but becoming whole. That's what we're diving into next week in part 8, the turning point, cracks that let the light in. We'll talk about how to reparent yourself with compassion, internal family systems, and a powerful approach called mindfulness-based strengths practice that helps you build self-trust, not self-hate. Because you can't hate yourself into healing, but you can love yourself into wholeness. I'll see you next week, brave souls. And remember, follow me, subscribe, and may the source be with you.